Hello and welcome to Rediscovering Childhood, a podcast that brings you lots of practical information to help you become a more conscious parent. This podcast is brought to you by Discovery Playtime, an Irish business that provides high-quality educational and sensory toys to help your children develop skills through play. Visit discoveryplaytime.ie or download the app to get inspired. Welcome to episode 3 of Rediscovering Childhood. Today we're joined by Amy Winter, owner of Little Kneaders based in Wexford and mummy to 3 children. We will talk about neurodivergent children and the support that's available for children with additional needs across Ireland, how to find support for parents, and we will find out more about Amy's therapy though, as well as the importance of attending play sessions in your area to help children develop skills during the early years especially. And we will also talk about types of activities and therapists you can find out there to support your child's development. Amy is qualified as an SNA and trained as a Rainbow Kids therapy instructor, which we'll tell us more about in a few minutes. But it involves well-being, yoga, breathworks and a few other things. She is a specialist in play for children and adults with additional needs or sensory disorders, but also those with dementia or Alzheimer's. Hello Amy, and thank you so much for being here today. But before we start, I'd like to know a little bit more about your own childhood.
My childhood was fantastic. I consider myself very privileged to have had the childhood I did. My mum was at home with us and we spent a lot of time outside. My dad put a tennis racket in my hand, age 3, and it didn't come out of my hand till I was 15, 16. So that was what I spent my spare time doing. I had a very loving and caring upbringing, so I was very lucky.
Do you think that definitely has affected the way you parent now as well, and the things you do on your
100%. Yeah. It gave me the foundations for parenting for sure. And we spend, as a family now, we spend a lot of time outside with my children, and it gave me the base for what I needed, I think.
Yeah, it's hard nowadays as well to spend that same time, the amount of time outside.
Yeah, life has changed so much. There weren't many screens. There was TV when I was a small little one. That has changed considerably, but I think a happy balance is the answer to those.
Yeah, because at the same time, we need to play outside, but at the same time, sometimes I'm like, how did they live without TV?
So it is tablets on long journeys. There's only so many times I can do head, shoulders, knees and toes in the car on the way to
Enough is enough.
Yeah. But I don't see, I think both have their positives. We would spend much more time outside than we would on screens as a family, but I also see the benefits of screen time too, especially with apps like reading eggs and things like that. They've been fantastic for my kids.
Yeah, I think they complement each other as well. What you do with the screen, then you can transfer into the real world, and then when you learn in the real world or experience or explore, then you kind of find the basics and the learning. Gets you more curious, finding. It's using technology for the right purposes as well.
Yes, and screens and apps and devices have come on for additional needs children phenomenally, and they are able to assist the non-verbal children and children who struggle to communicate in phenomenal ways.
Become their
voice. I don't think screens are all bad.
No, I agree. I'd like to start with the basics. Sometimes we find it, I find it a little bit difficult to be on top of the terminology that we use when we talk about children with additional needs. And I was told before, I can't say autistic, I have to say children with autism, and now we realize that no, they're autistic, and that's who they are, and that's what makes them so amazing. And they are autistic children, autistic people. So I'm neurodivergent, neurotypical. There's new terminology as we discover more about
all the time.
Their skills,
constantly changing for the better, to positively enforce these children and adults' lives. So neurotypical would be children or adults who conform to society's standards, the standards that society have put in place that they deem typical.
Okay.
And neurodivergent would be a mind that diverges outside of these. So it can be genetic or it could be acquired. So it's an umbrella term for a multitude of children and adults. It covers autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, acquired brain injuries. It's a very positive term to use, I think. And I think additional needs will slowly reduce completely. And special needs we don't use anymore.
That's really good to know because, I think there's a lot of meaning in language. Every word can be very powerful. So it's really good to know. But I think it's really important as well that we feel comfortable with asking questions and wanting to know and learn.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Like everything's changing all the time. There's a big movement at the moment there are classes, they're originally known as ASD units. And there's a big movement at the moment to rename this as an ASD class instead of a unit, because the children aren't in a unit, they're just in a different classroom.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it's a great thing, but it's hard to keep up with sometimes.
As our children grow up, we might get to a point where we realize that at certain stage of their development that there is something that we should be concerned or worried about, or not worried, but worried in the sense that we should be offering extra support for our children. Where is the best place to find information?
So if you notice symptoms, this is why we have public health developmental checks for children, because there are checkboxes that public health nurses go through when you go into your appointment with them, and they start really early. So they will pick up on things like delayed speech or lining up toys, or there's lots of balance might be a bit off, or spatial awareness might be bumping into door frames or walls, or but they don't come round enough maybe so if you are concerned, the best place to contact would be your public health nurse. And if you would be assessed, or the child would be assessed, and then you would be passed to the CDNT teams. The only problem is there's currently about 110,000 children waiting for CDNT appointments. So it's a very, very long wait.
And that's just the public system.
That's the public system, yeah. But there are some incredible companies who do early intervention and early assessments from 18 months, 2 years. And they're private. They have psychologists, they have OTs, they have speech and language therapists, and they work as a whole team. And they'll give an assessment of needs, because sometimes it can be very difficult for these children if these things aren't picked up before they go into the ECCE, or if they have to go to childcare when mum and dad are working. So having an early assessment is great, because you can have access to an AIMS worker, or you can receive additional support. There's also some incredible charities such as I Am, which is the Irish autism charity, and ADHD Ireland, the Down syndrome Ireland, they all have helplines, so you can always ring them and talk to somebody about your concerns or your issues, and they have a multitude of places that they can send you to, point you in the right direction to get the support you need.
Okay, and I suppose this association, or when children get an assessment, there would be different therapists or specialists that give you a different information in regards of the different areas of development.
Yeah, absolutely. So the OTs, they work to try and make your child's life or the adult's life as independent as possible. So they work with the emotional, the physical, the mental, and the developmental side of things. And like it could be a sensory lifestyle, or it could be working on handwriting skills or fine motor or gross motor skills, or balance or spatial awareness, anything that just helps to make children's lives a bit easier for them in daily life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you are a Rainbow Kids Therapy instructor. Tell us a bit about that.
I'm also a special needs yoga instructor and a breathwork coach. So the Rainbow Kids Therapy, it's especially for neurodivergent children, and it's a mixture of yoga, breathwork, mindfulness, games, to help them build a positive view of themselves almost, and to help their minds relax and to calm, and to give them the tools that they may need during school or after school or in life. They definitely meet more challenges than others, and it can be they can become quite down on themselves because they struggle to keep up.
Yeah. And that's something very common anyway, regardless, because lots of children that struggle with their self-esteem and their confidence because they keep comparing, especially now with social media and these things. It's very hard on children's mental health as well. And who has more likes and who has more popularity, and so if you add extra challenges, then it becomes
it's really hard. And neurodivergent children are more likely to experience periods of depression or severe anxiety as they go into adolescence and adulthood. So working with them from such a young age is fantastic because it's less likely, you're working on their mental health from age 2, 3.
Yeah. And that's a long-term process as well, working on your mental health. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, and it's good for us too.
Absolutely, yeah. And where do you do where do you run this program?
So we run it all around Ireland, but I also run weekly classes in Wexford. We have sensory play for neurodivergent children, and our wellness program will start on a weekly basis from September. But it's great for the children here because it's really helped their socialization. There wasn't a group here for neurodivergent children to experience sensory play. And it's slightly different to the messy play for neurotypical children because, there's no top on the floor because that's an added noise, that's an added visual. It's also difficult if it gets slippy. And I find neurodivergent children, they absolutely love barefoot exploration. So most of them, as soon as they come in, they take off their shoes and socks and they put their feet straight into the bowls.
Yeah, in my last playgroup, they came in with no shoes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, they absolutely love it. I have one boy, when I put it was actually your foam, your big sponge, your giant sponge.
Oh, yes.
I had that at one of my setups, and he stripped completely down to his boxes and sat in it and covered himself in foam.
Nice.
So he was having the best time ever. They don't like the over elaborate, brightly colored play trays.
It can be very overwhelming.
They like very simple. They just seek the sensory base.
Yes.
So if you have loads of bits in it, they often just chuck them out and they just put their feet or their hands straight into the base. That's what they're seeking, is actual touch.
Yeah, and that just brings us back to basics as well, because when we're setting up play for children, we sometimes overcomplicate ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And it has to look beautiful rather than have a purpose or
but that's a Pinterest or Instagram, is to make your feed look good. It's not actually, something like that. All those bright colors and all the complicated things in them, the different textures, they can be really overstimulating, especially for neurodivergent children who can have heightened senses. So either they might have heightened smell or heightened visuals or heightened auditory, and that's really difficult for them to cope with. So the plainer the better.
Yeah. So what would be? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sometimes they have something called visual clutter, which is where they if something is too busy, they will leave it because their brain can't process all the things that are there.
Same as in a playroom when we have too many toys and then we say, too many toys, how can you not play with anything? Or your wardrobe, if too many clothes, and I have nothing to wear. So it kind of, if it's too much, quality over quantity always. If it's too much, it's overwhelming and it's hard to make a choice.
I really don't like taking my own kids to the toy shop because they really struggle to find anything that they want. You know, if I order something for them, it's very different. It arrives in a box, it's fine. But taking them actually to where those big shelves are piled high with, you know, hundreds, thousands of toys is just, they become so overwhelmed and they can't choose anything.
Yeah. So if we were to set up a sensory activity or sensory play setup for children, for neurodivergent children, what do you think they could enjoy at home doing?
So if they really like wet play, a table with, so the IKEA Flissat is the best table I find because you can put the water in one side. It doesn't even have to be coloured, you know, just plain water, and then some scoops, spoons in the other side, the dry side, and some flowers or some chives or something with a scent to it. And then a lot of them just will stand there and pour water for hours. But for those who don't like wet play, I find either the glitter bottles from Petite Bonne or sensory rice that's dry. It's not sticky, it's coloured, but I add scent to mine as well just to give that extra scent. And you don't have to do that if your child has a heightened sense of smell. And they can do lots with it. You know, they can pour it, they can run their hands through it, they can practice their fine motor skills through it. So it's a good one.
Yeah, and you can add little containers or spoons or hide little, if they have favorite figures or something, you can hide them inside. And great. And if anyone is wondering, colored rice, what? So it could work. You just put
the gel color. I use gel colors in mine, and it works. And then just let it dry, and it dries within half an hour or so.
Yeah, I think also it's very important that parents find support for themselves as well, not just for their children. We can't forget about the importance of support for parents. And that's along the journey of being a parent. But if on top of learning how to be a parent, you have to learn about, you know, all the additional needs that you need to support for your children, where can they find support?
So it can be a really tough start to the journey, especially if you had no idea and it comes as a bit of a surprise. It can really throw you into the deep end as a parent. You're suddenly in a world that it's not easy to navigate, especially with public health delays and not being able to get access to appointments or therapists when you need them. But there are some incredible charities and parent-led support groups that they work tirelessly to provide support to parents and children. There's one in Wexford, Cottage Autism Network, who do an astounding amount of work for their members. Louise, who is the chair lady of Cottage Autism, her phone is ringing all day long. They put on a phenomenal amount of activities for the children, and you gain support as a parent through other parents.
Would you have any experiences you'd like to share about some progress that, you know, parents have learned something or children have developed some skills thanks to coming to your groups or your workshops?
It's not just them. I guess it's me who's learned so much too from the children who come and play. One little boy says goodbye by putting his head against yours, and it made me stop and think about how important a goodbye is. You know, sometimes we just walk out of things and we don't really take long enough to say goodbye to somebody, and sometimes we don't say goodbye at all. We're so busy in our lives that
but just to acknowledge them.
way of saying goodbye is so important to that little boy, you know. When I was training some of the local parents, there was a mum there, and her little boy has a very restricted diet, and through play, she came home one day and he was looking to eat his raw carrot out of the play tray, you know, which is it was a huge step. Anyway, this year has seen a huge explosion of parent-led support groups and sensory play and messy play for neurodivergent children, which is incredible all across the country. But it's important to keep these going.
Yeah, definitely. And the parents as well, because it's a social space where they can meet each other and talk and share their worries and their needs and their achievements, everything. So as much as we want an inclusive world, these groups are still separated, neurotypical, sensory play and
there's good reasons. Yeah, there are good reasons for that. I run 2 groups if I'm ever running one for neurotypical children as well. And that's because the neurodivergent children, they need a little bit more space. They need more understanding. Their parents need a non-judgmental space where they can bring their child, where they know nobody's going to look at them if there's a meltdown. There's going to be understanding about sharing. It's just a safer space for them to come.
How can we help children understand, neurotypical children understand why some other children might have different needs, or, you know, they might, a child might want something and one can get it and the other one can't, or things like that? How can we make them understand that it's not unfair?
Children are really accepting. It's us who put labels on children. But as generally speaking, children are really accepting of other children. They don't look at them differently. Typically, when my neurodivergent children come in, they take off their shoes and socks and they run. They do laps of the hall to regulate themselves. They're so excited. And in neurotypical class, they run straight for the sensory bases and just go for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's such a great support. And do you think these playgroups are beneficial when you attend on a regular basis? Or is
100%,
okay?
because you know they get so much social skills out of attending them, and it's also it becomes part of their routine. So lots of neurodivergent children rely on routine to help them, and if it gets cancelled or it gets whipped from under them at the last minute, it can cause a meltdown or a big problem for them to try and get over. One little boy in my class, he wouldn't speak to anybody, he wouldn't play with anybody. And now he runs off from his mum when he comes in and finds the 2 girls that he really enjoys playing with and spends the whole hour playing with them, and even managed to come to the Easter camp and just took off and played with the girls that were there. It was really nice because that's a huge difference.
Yeah, and that's why these type of play and workshops, it's a long term. It takes time, and you know, sometimes parents bring the kids and they go, they didn't like it. Just give them time. It takes time.
Yeah, it takes time, and especially with neurodivergent children, you have to give this time.
Yeah, and that's it's very important. While, because you know, we know, and we spoke about this, there are long delays on getting assessments and getting the right support. But in the meantime, if you can find a local playgroup like this that offers that kind of support, I think that's the right thing to do while you're waiting. You're not wasting time.
Just and parents also go out with help, you know, for filling in forms or which politician to contact, who does best with the carers allowance, or you know, things like that. They're vital to those families. Vital. So if they go out armed with that, they've also been able to relax because their child is regulating and having fun. So they've, for the first time, maybe that week, they've sat down and been able to rest while the child is busy.
And you train parents as well? Train teachers?
I train teachers and parents in sensory play for neurodivergent children and adults. I would do a lot of work with dementia and Alzheimer's carers.
And is that's part of your business, Little Kneaders?
It is, yes.
So that's the wellness.
It's one of my favorite bit. Yeah, I think training parents is my favorite bit of the business. you see such a big change. They're able to take these skills home, and their children get to benefit from this every day. And they see the benefits of providing that type of play.
Exactly. Yeah. And it gives parents motivation as well to get back home and do something new and know that they're going in the right direction. And you also make a therapeutic dough. It's like
We do, yes. We
yeah.
have,
And it's
yeah.
absolutely amazing. I actually got a set. Thank you so much. And we're using it at home as well for self-regulation. Tried and tested, and it works. It really works.
Last year, we collaborated with Ground Wellbeing, who are a company in Cork. Peggy Crowley is the founder, and she's just a wizard with scents. She makes the most beautiful scents for products, and her products are all over the world in 5-star hotels and spas, and she's done incredibly well. And I was lucky enough to catch her at the right time and be able to collaborate to bring a product for neurodivergent children and adults, to give them a tool that is small enough to go to school and it's not that noticeable. Lots of children use therapy putty or things, but this one has the added benefit of scent that has been, the essential oils in it have been hand blended together for purpose. One is the AM dough is for uplifting and awakening the mind in the morning times before school. And then the calm one is for evening time or after school, or when there's been a meltdown, just to help their systems either to wake up or rest. And all of our doughs are used across Ireland and the UK and the US now. So,
and my house.
And your house, and mine too.
Yeah, it is really, really good. And there's enough for the 3 of us here as well to use it at the same time.
Yes, they're big tins. They're really big tins, and you only need a small bit. So,
yes.
Yeah. There was one mum who told me that her 4-year-old boy, she got some for him, and she was implementing it into his bedtime routine. So he was using it while she was reading a story, and he went to sleep really quickly, smelling his hands. And he now asks for it during downtime during the day, which is really nice. So when he's having 10 minutes on the sofa in between running around playing, he's asking for that, which is really lovely to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's play. It's just play. It's really that link between us and the world, between us and ourselves, and that connection with ourselves, and how we get to know ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, and how we can improve what we do. It's play, 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 play. And back to that childhood, our own childhood, how play has given us so many skills and so many opportunities for learning and discovering things.
Yeah. I see so much of my childhood in my middle child. I remember very clearly my parents had a brick pathway around, like an edging around their garden borders, and I remember very clearly picking up each brick and looking for the bugs and beetles underneath. I can still picture the little green caterpillars going down there. She does exactly the same things now in our garden. She's like, "Mummy, will you lift the pot so I can find the roly polies?" She's got so many pets. It's been really nice to be reminded of those things.
And she'll never forget that, the same as you still remember now.
No. I don't remember many of the winters, but I remember all of the summers being spent outside.
Yeah, and these are the magical moments that have a huge impact. Play comes back again in the older years as well. It's so important to keep your brain active and your fine and gross motor skills. Just keep it active. It's play. Yeah,
but seeing the change in dementia, Alzheimer's patients after having done an hour's workshop with them is just phenomenal. They can become very agitated and frustrated, but you see them after an hour of play, like specialized play for them, and they're so relaxed and so calm, and it makes a huge difference to them.
Yeah, and I think it's also because people think play is just throwing a ball and come on, go play. It's I always say it's so much more than that. Even walking around trees and touching them, or hiding behind a tree, or that's all play. Anything that you enjoy doing, that is play. anything.
100%. Yeah.
Should we all go play outside? Not play outside, I'll just say walk outside. Every day.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's so important for all our mental health
Mm-hmm.
to be outside and, either doing activities or even just sitting on the grass. It can provide huge grounding benefits to us, especially as adults, and our lives are so busy, and the more children you have, the more balls you have to juggle all day long, and you never just sit anymore. So sitting on the beach or putting your toes in the sand. That was me yesterday. I had this huge overwhelming feeling of anxiety yesterday, just out of nowhere. I think from the fair from Dublin and being busy all week, and then yesterday it hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was my daughter who was running through the shoreline, and she said, "Come on, Mummy, I want somebody to come in with me." And I just rolled up my leggings and put my feet in, and instantly I felt alive.
Brilliant. And then before we go, the resource fairs, where can we find them and what are they?
So I set up the resource fairs around Ireland. I attended the most incredible resource fair run by the Mayo Autism Camp. I couldn't believe that these resource fairs just weren't available to every family or adult or child or carer in Ireland. It was just such a simple concept that brought so much benefit to not only the carers and parents and children, but to us as businesses, to be able to network together, to find links where we can refer children and families to. On my way home, I rang the Talbot in Wexford and booked to do the Southeast one, and saw the benefits. We had over 400 visitors in those 3 hours, and the feedback was incredible. So I booked to do various ones around the country. They're all done at cost price. They're free entry public events. They're there to support as many people as possible.
That is brilliant for the families, as you said. It's great for the businesses. I was there in the Dublin one last week, and it's incredible to meet other businesses, and I'll support each other as well a little bit more, and complement each other. Like, oh, you do this, I do that, or join forces and do something together. Or it was absolutely incredible. But for the future, if other business want to contact you to showcase at future fairs, where can they contact you?
They just pop me an email to hello@littlekneaders.com and we can figure some bits out.
Any businesses out there want to contact Amy from Little Kneaders, we'll leave the email address or their website so they can contact you.
And we have Cork and Kerry and Limerick and Tipperary for the rest of this year, and then we're adding Meath in to next year's as well.
Amazing. And then back in Dublin and Southeast next year. And then also families, teachers, SNAs, therapists, parents,
anybody working or living with neurodivergent children.
Try your best to attend, because it's definitely worth it, and it's the only way that we can keep running these events, which are helping a lot of families.
I hope so.
Yeah, great, Amy. Thank you so much. It was so lovely to talk.
No, thank you. It was lovely, Mia. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to share your own story on our podcast, please get in touch through our social media. Don't forget to like, share, and follow so you'll never miss out on upcoming episodes. See you next time!